Hey everybody, today I want to plant up some containers for sun and I want to push myself when it comes to color. I have some default decisions that I tend to go for. Like if I'm having trouble matching plants or if I'm trying to mix different colors, a lot of times I just default to, okay, I can't find something that I think is going to match, so I'm just going to go with yellow or I'm just going to go with white because those seem to be kind of those almost neutrals when it comes to flowers. Today I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try some very different combinations. I'm going to break some rules. These might drive me crazy later on because there's going to be some mismatches potentially. So we're going to give it a go. We'll see how it goes. The first plant though that I wanted to start with was this newish kind of CUPHEA. So this type of CUPHEA is quite different from, like, if you're used to the Vermillionaire CUPHEA or Hummingbird's Lunch or like Honeybells or Sugarbells. This one is quite different. It has a different type of flower and its habit is quite different. It grows kind of more, it's a little bit more upright. It might do a little snaking or kind of that vase shape type thing as it's growing, but definitely different from those other type of CUPHEAs. Also, the leaf is almost a little bit, it's not fuzzy, but it has that little bit of roughness, whereas we notice the other types of CUPHEA tend to have a glossier leaf. So this one in particular is called the Totally Tempted Richly Red. And the nice thing about this is that although it looks very red when you first look at it, if you take a closer look at the flower, it actually has some purple in the center. And I thought, okay, Corey, this is your signal to try something that you would normally never put with red. And today, that plant is going to be the Supertunia Mini Vista Plum Veined. And I loved this plant when I saw it in the trial gardens. I love the plant now when I see it in person. It has this beautiful color of purple. It's kind of a, just a really unique color with that beautiful veining. And that's one of the advantages when you have veining going on. It usually means that it'll match a little bit or blend a little bit with other colors. And so I'm going to give it a try with this Richly Red CUPHEA. I might regret the mix, but I think it's worth trying. So I'm going to put this in here. Now, because the Mini Vistas have smaller flowers, and then the flowers on that CUPHEA are relatively small, they're in clusters, I think I'm going to keep them separate from each other. And in between, I want to put something with big flowers. And I decided I'm going to go with a petunia. And I have this Supertunia Black Cherry that I got in one of my online orders. And I think, you know what, that big red color, I'm not sure how well it's going to go with the Totally Tempted Richly Red, but I think it's worth a try. So I want to go and give that one a try, but I want to show you something with this Supertunia. Look at how the leaves are kind of yellow or lime colored. They're really bright. They have kind of dark veining inside of them. This is a classic sign of chlorosis, and chlorosis basically means that this plant isn't getting the nutrients that it needs, so it's not greening up really nice. There's a pretty simple solution for this because the problem is not with the plant, the problem is not with the grower, the plant has to do with our water. At least in our case, it's the water. Our pH is very high. Same thing can happen if your soil pH is really high, and when you have a high pH, plants aren't able to take up the nutrients, at least certain plants, especially you'll see it in petunias, calibrachoas, especially calibrachoas. Calibrachoas are super sensitive to pH. And so the simple solution to this is using some chelated iron. So there's different ways that you can get this. So there are liquids that you can kind of mix in and make a foliar spray, which means you spray it on the leaves, or you can use it, add it to your water and mix it in. There's also a lot of kind of powder or crystal type things that you could add. We're always really careful when we're using those because we don't want to overdo it. We don't want to really, risk any kind of damage to the plant. So we just try to be as gentle as we can with it. I'd rather put a couple of applications that are smaller than go one big dose. I haven't heard of there being big problems with, burning your plants with the chelated iron or whatever product you're using, but I don't want to risk it. Then the other way though is if you're using a water-soluble fertilizer, a lot of varieties have those iron chelates in it. So if you're using Miracle-Gro or the one from Proven Winners, Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer, Jack's Petunia feed, those all have those iron chelates and they'll kind of help your plant out and kind of balance out your pH in a way that it allows the plant to take up the nutrients, or it compensates for your pH. So I want to use this, really dark red petunia in here. Now, I only have one, but I thought this is a really good opportunity to try a different petunia in here and just see how they do side by side. Now this could be a disaster because having two different petunias means the color could be quite different, or they might have a different growth, might look lopsided, but you know what? I'm willing to try it. just to see. And so like this petunia right here, it's actually a petchoa, which is a cross between a petunia and a calibrachoa. And this is the SuperCal Premium Bordeaux. And it is a beautiful, dark, kind of reddish color, but it has a bit of a kind of raspberry cast to it. I think it's a little brighter than what we're going to see in this one. Meanwhile, the other one that I have is right here. This is the Sanguna Merlot, and this is a really nice, dark, rich petunia. It tends to be a little bit darker on the center, and then just a really velvety red on the outside. And you know what? I think this one is going to be just fine right here. We'll see how it looks later. We may kind of be laughing at this decision later, but hey, you know, that's what it's all about, right? These experiments that we're going to run. So now I'm going to get these in here and we're going to see how all of this goes. So again, this is those Eco Grande pots that Proven Winners is putting out. It is so weird putting these in the compost bin. Like, in fact, every time I put one in there, somebody's pulled it out and said, oh, there's a pot in the compost bin. I'm like, nope, that one can go in there. It actually degrades. So it's a weird feeling to be putting those in there. So I've just got my soil in here. I'm going to pop in my plant. So we're starting with this in the center. Now I'm looking at this. Now we've trimmed this one a couple times, but I do feel like it could use maybe another pinch just to play it safe. So I'm just gonna, I should have my snips, but I don't. So I'm just gonna pinch off. I'm looking at where they break off, and then I'm just pinching them there. So just above where the leaf sets are. I can always trim them later too. I mean, this is looking pretty good, so I guess I shouldn't worry about it too much. Then I'll do the one next to it, and I'm gonna make sure that I put my tag right beside where I'm putting it, because I want to make sure that I remember. And these are pretty close together, but I do know that this one does grow a little bit more up. This one is going to trail quite a bit more. So hopefully in the end, all of it's not too noticeable, you know, or they work nice together, I hope. So we're going to give that a go. This is also another chance for me to just show you the difference between, this is the Proven Winners Grande container, whereas this is a true quart. And so basically you're looking at 946 milliliters, and this one is 813. So there is a difference in the size. If it's a younger plant, this is fine, but like for growers and different retailers, if they're holding on to the plants too long in this size, they might not be doing quite as well, but it varies. Now, you know, I kind of feel like maybe I should have staggered these a little bit because I feel like they're right on top of each other, but they're petunias. Petunias tend to grow where there's room and where they can. So I have a feeling this one's going to grow this way, this one's going to grow out this way, and all is going to be right with the world afterwards. So that's the risk I'm going to take. I'm going to stick my other tag right here and pop this one in. And we've been trimming a lot of the flowers off of our plants because we don't open for, well, we open on the 1st. And so that's a couple, still have over a week, or we have a week before we open. Oops. So we're going to be sure to, you know, this is our last trim, and then once we open, we just trim for shape after that. We don't do a lot of trimming after that. But by trimming like that, it does encourage the plant to branch out more, encourages the plant as well to, you know, have its root development focused on a little bit more. So for us, that works. Definitely though, when the public come here, we want these plants flowering. So I think I've got these in. Now I'm going to add a little bit more soil to this, because as I kind of push it down, this part here is a little bit lower than where the plants are. So I'm going to put a little bit more soil. I will then add a little bit of time release fertilizer to this. That's kind of my backup. And then my regular fertilizing schedule is once a week. I use a water soluble fertilizer like the ones I had mentioned earlier. So that tends to work really well for us. And that once a week is you know, a beautiful amount of time to be able to do it. Now this other one here, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to try to keep it a little more monochromatic. I tend to do contrast, or I tend to do really bright. This one is not going to be that at all. So I'm going to start with this Coleus, and this is the Color Blaze Wicked Witch. This is one that I don't think I've actually grown Wicked Witch. I've grown ones like this, but a lot of people love it, and I want to see what that's all about. So we're going to give this a go. So I'm going to put this in the center. There we go. And then I think on each side I want to put a petunia, and I think that, you know, these two containers I'm going to put petunias in, but for my other ones I'm not. Now I'm picking off the dead ones because where I keep my plants for my projects is away from the other plants, so they don't get trimmed by the staff, they don't get the fertilizer, and they're not in a spot where they get any breeze. Normally these are a self-cleaning variety, so you don't have to worry about them, you know, needing to be cleaned or anything like that. You can always pick off anything that you don't like, but so I'm going to do that. I'm going to just keep these right in a row. I mean, in the past I have done it where I do kind of a zigzag and that type of thing, but I have a feeling this is going to be just fine. Now there's pretty good branching on these, so I could cut them off right here if I want to. A lot of times when I'm planting at this point in the season, I'll just give them that trim just to encourage the branching, but I have a feeling these are going to be just fine. I might change my mind later and still run in there and give them a good little trim up, but yeah, should be fine. Okay, so actually I'm going to rotate this a little bit because I just want it growing not into the coleus as much. The coleus is going to get quite tall, so I'm not too worried. And then I'm going to put this Plum Dandy alternanthera in here. This is such a nice plant. It gets really full, and it has this beautiful kind of purpley color. And make sure if you ever see one, look underneath. A lot of the alternantheras have kind of a hot pink or a hot purple kind of coloring underneath it, and I just love how that looks. It's just very bright, and sometimes when the wind blows you'll notice it, you know. Otherwise it's kind of an unnoticed feature on these. So we're going to get these in here, and I think this one's ready to go. So I'm really happy so far with what these look like. And you know, normally I would be trying to go with a little bit more color. The Supertunia honey is one of those tricky ones because it does do a color shift. Sometimes it's a little bit more yellow, sometimes it's more orangey, sometimes you have more than one color on the plant at one time. So if you're trying to be matchy, Supertunia honey isn't a good one for that. But because I have this dark foliage here, and then the Wicked Witch has the dark foliage, I think those colors, whatever color they can't come out to be, are going to look really, really good in this container. So, and Supertunia honey is one of those, it grows really well. It tends to trail like most of the Supertunias do, so it's reliable, it's good. So happy to put that one in there. So I want to make sure that I keep track of which plants I'm putting in here. So I want to put my tags in with them. This is how I do it. I just kind of, when I'm done, I pick a spot and I slip them in there and make that happen. And then this one, I already have those in front of those, so I'm going to just put my other tags right in the middle. Very important that you remember to do that, because there's nothing worse than loving a container and not remembering what you put in it. So my next little combo that I'm going to work on are some lantanas. And I have a couple things that I want to work on with these lantanas. So first of all, I had ordered 3 different colors of pink lantana in one of my online orders, and I want to just see how they work. So they're all from the Luscious series. So this is Luscious Berry Blend, Luscious Royale Cosmo, and Luscious, Pink Berry Blend. Now, oftentimes with Proven Winners, if it's a Royale, it means it's a little bit more compact. I didn't really look at the size, but let me get this Luscious Berry Blend in here. So this is probably the brighter of all the pinks that are in there. And you know, these lantanas tend to get quite large, so I am putting 3 in here is where I would probably max out. And I think, what is this, a 6, no, it's probably a 14, oh, let's see, I better just measure it. This is a 14-inch pot, so I'm pushing this to kind of my limit. Meanwhile, this Pink Berry Blend, now this is a situation where I probably should just snip these off. I can see new growth happening, you know, at the leaf sets. I think I'm going to snip it off just to encourage it to be a little bit more bushy. Over time, I found that a lot of these lantanas, they'll fill in on their own, but I like to kind of get that result a little sooner, and I like to kind of force it a little. And you'll notice when you're planting the lantana, it has a bit of like a lemon type of smell, or like a lemon cleaner almost. And then this one is the Royale Cosmo. So let me just check. So this one's 12 to 26. Yeah, and these are 20 to 30. So this one, you know, it's about 4 inches smaller than the other two. So we'll see how that looks. And, you know, if that difference really stands out, or if it's not as noticeable. And so this is just going to be a lantana pot, 3 completely different colors of pink in here, which, you know, potentially might drive me a little crazy looking at it, or I might absolutely love it. The one good thing is that as it's growing, I could kind of take these branches and just kind of nudge them into directions so that they mix in together if I wanted to do that, or I could kind of keep them in their own little rooms and so that it becomes color blocked. I could do either or I just let it happen, which is probably what's going to happen. However it grows is how it's going to be. And then I have another one, and in this one I'm putting some non-proven winter varieties. I have them over there, so let me go get them. Okay, so my Lantana are looking a little peaked, and that's because where I've been storing them, I keep them away from the stuff for the public or stuff that we're going to be selling, so they don't get on the regular fertilizing schedule. They don't get the same attention as the other plants, so mine got a little funny. But I gave them fertilizer this weekend, and I can already see new growth coming from the bottom, so that's, in the end, it might actually be quite an advantage. So let's get this in here. Oh, and you know what? I didn't put my other Lantana tags in there, so right now I'm not going to know which one's which. I will know where the one that's flowering is, but the other ones I might not be able to tell. That'll be okay because I think the color difference is quite noticeable, so I should be able to figure it out. So this first one that I'm putting in is, here's what I should say. Each one of these three Lantanas are very, very different from each other in their habits. So the first one is Lucky, and Lucky is quite compact, so it only gets more of the 12-inch to high to 12 to 16 inches wide. So it's a more compact variety compared to like this passion fruit one. So passion fruit is kind of in its own category. It doesn't have any other colors available at this point, but this one is more of a trailing variety. It's known for being trailing. It's actually sold as specifically a trailing type. And this one gets 12 to 16 high, no, 12 inches high and 12 to 16 wide, which is the same size, isn't it? Yeah, so they measure about the same, but their habit should be a little bit different. We'll see. I think this is why I want to do this little experiment, because I want to know exactly, what the difference is. I think this one has a lot more branching compared to some of the other Lantanas. It's really kind of a cool color too. It's definitely more purpley pink with a nice golden color, so it's a little bit more unusual. And my third one here is Bandolero Lychee, and the size of this one is 18 to 24 high, 18 to 24 wide. So this one is more vigorous. So we are going to probably see a little dominance from this one. That said, maybe it won't be as pronounced as we think. It also might be one of those things where over the course of the season we might notice some differences, but at different points they might be very similar. So I will have to add a little more soil to this, but I think this is going to be kind of a fun experiment. I don't always show you guys my little testers, but this year I thought, you know what? Going to give you guys the behind the scenes look of how I like to play with these plants. It makes it so much easier for me to be able to talk about the plants later on. If I've grown them like this, if I've seen them side by side, if I've done these little experiments, at least I know how they grew for me. Now, different conditions, different situations can cause different results, but for the most part, it still makes it easier so I can compare this to what I've seen in trial gardens and from other people, just the way I like to go. So these are all for full sun, and hey, I am looking forward to seeing how these work out. So going to get on my regular fertilizing schedule once a week with that water soluble. Definitely want to make sure that I'm getting some chelated iron on this particular petunia. It should recover. I usually start seeing results from that in just a couple of days. So maybe in 3 days, you'll start seeing it green up. There have been times when it seemed like the very next day it looked different. So it kind of depends, but usually you notice something pretty quick. So I have to be honest with you, I am having gardener's regret with my decisions here. And it's really just putting these two similar yet different dark red petunias on each side of this plant. I just feel like, oh, I'm going to be looking at this the rest of the summer, and what if the two flower colors really look funny together? Or what if the growth habit of one is completely different from the other? And the whole summer I'm going to be looking at this, and I kept thinking, oh, you know what? Maybe what I should do is take out that Supertunia Black Cherry, put that one in the middle, push back the CUPHEA, and then put another one of the Merlots. So at least if there's a different color one, it's centered, and I'll have at least some balance even if they don't match. And then I said, no, stop. Stay the course. This is why we do experiments. This is why we're trying this out. This is how we learn our lessons. And so this one may be a lesson. I may hate it. It may drive me crazy, but until it starts growing and starts blooming, I'm not going to know. So we're going to keep the mystery. I will keep you guys posted. We'll see how this one goes.